Orioles hosting the first-place Texas Rangers. We'll find out how the week goes. And, of course, the Orioles about to take it on the road out west in the next couple of weeks. Plenty of things happening there, as well as on the backfields in Owings Mills. And even in downtown Baltimore, where the Ravens have a couple practices this week. This guy covers all things sports in Boston at Fox 25. He is their lead sports anchor, and we think it's busy here. They got Bruins and Celtics and all sorts of things going on up there. No wonder everybody goes to Boston College games. Tom Lydon joining us here from Beantown and all things Chowder. My wife spent a weekend in New England this last weekend up in New Hampshire and says it's lovely weather this time of year, but the Patriots back on the field. Are we at the point, Tom, where the Patriots are a bigger deal than the Red Sox, that when camp opens there, somehow, some way that's gotten a little out of balance in some way?
Without a doubt. There's no question. There were 22,000 people at practice on Friday. Gorgeous day. People were excited. It was the second day, actually it was Saturday. 22,000 people. Just ridiculous when you think about how many people are there. They're the number one team, 365, 24/7, without a doubt. And when you think about the tradition of the Red Sox and how much this is a traditional baseball team, that just speaks to the success of the last 15 years, the legendary status of Belichick and Brady here, and who knows how long that's going to last. So people here understand they got to hop on board while they can, because even 4 or 5 years from now, you can hope that the Patriots are going to be as good as they are now. But there's certainly no guarantee, because the two guys who got them here, we don't know if they'll be here in 4 or 5 years.
Well, the amazing part of this is, a couple of pounds of pressure in a football has become now a story that's a year and a half old. It's still an unfolding story. There's still tentacles to how it's going to turn out for the team this year. Clearly down here, we think they're a bunch of cheaters. I mean, I know up there, nobody thinks they cheated. Clearly, the league has fought this tooth and nail, and as much as it wasn't a big story here on a day-by-day basis, I follow a lot of you Boston media types, and, you had to go cover all of this at every turn, every legal hearing. It's kind of like the Ray Rice story that never went away here. At least the Ray Rice story finally did go away here, and we weren't covering every nuance of it. But the Brady story still isn't over with, really.
No, it's not. And, in fact, Tom still hasn't spoken. I mean, even since he made his decision not to continue the fight, we have not heard from him behind a microphone in any way, shape, or form. He made a Facebook post, and that's kind of been his modus operandi, which is the one thing he really gets criticized about. It's like, why are you not speaking is almost making this more of a big deal than it really should be. And he hasn't spoken throughout mini camps, throughout OTAs, throughout the first 4 days of training camp. Apparently he's going to be part of tonight's Hall of Fame induction ceremony for Kevin Falk, because he's going into the Patriots Hall of Fame on Monday night. But he's not going to answer any questions, and he's obviously just going to allude specifically to what Kevin has meant to his career and what Kevin over his career with New England. But at some point, some way, somehow, Brady's going to have to stand in front of some microphones, and whether that's today, tomorrow, the questions are going to come up, and it's just a matter of him and under what circumstances they have him do that news availability. Because, if they've averted putting him in front of a podium with 20 cameras aimed at him answering a series of questions that are thrown at him from every angle, they prefer to kind of sneak it in a day when maybe there's not as many media members there. It might be a Sunday. It might be a rainy day. It might be some day where you least expect it, and he'll stand up in front of his locker and say, like, okay, today's the day, go. That's what he did last year.
It's all one big game, isn't it? I mean, and in the end, has he ever stood in front of everyone and said, they're lying, I never told anyone to do this, the reasons he didn't give his phone up? I mean, I've never seen him really sort of answer a tough question or have to answer a tough question with something that felt like it had some integrity behind it, other than the white sweater episode a year and a half ago, right?
Constantly compared to Peyton Manning throughout his career, right? And you can pinpoint, yet again, a comparison between the two quarterbacks. I agree with exactly what you just said. Because if there's something to be said from a guy who's been accused of doing something wrong, in my world, if I didn't do something wrong, I adamantly stand in front of a microphone, answer questions, and say, I did not do this. I did not do what I have been accused of doing. And everything that has transpired over the course of the last 18 months is absolutely ridiculous when you go back to the core fact that I didn't do this. So that's the reason why I fought. That's the reason why I took it as far as I did. It got beyond my control, but the fact remains I knew nothing about what they're blaming me of doing. Now, I compare it to Peyton Manning in this regard.
But he's never said that, right, in any way.
He has never said that. I mean, he has been very very calculated in how he's communicated. He was asked, is Tom Brady a cheater? And he says, no, I always think that I follow the rules. He was asked, I'm trying to think over the course of all these months how he's been asked this question, and much of it has been handled via statements on his Facebook page, and that's very well crafted, and who knows if he really writes it, and it's been hidden behind legalese.
Well, I guess the point would be he looks like a cheater. He has taken on the sort of role of everyone that I've ever seen cheat, and I think that across the country that's been sniffed out. In New England, he's the guy that wins you championships, so the fans are still going to love him. The way I go to Cincinnati, they love Pete Rose. They defended Barry Bonds even though his forehead had grown by 3 sizes. Fans are funny like that, but then there's the media and asking questions and trying to disseminate sort of like a jury, who's guilty and who's innocent. Boy, he hasn't smelled real good. Neither is Kraft in all of this.
Well, Kraft's been a little better. Just the way he handled it, the decisions he's made are questionable. But let me finish my thought on the Manning thing. I mean, when he was accused of HGH, what's the first thing he did? I mean, he almost sprinted to Lisa Salters and did the interview and adamantly, angrily denied the charges. Now, you being in Baltimore, you know darn well that doesn't always play out so well for you. Just ask Rafael Palmeiro. You don't want to be pointing your fingers at the cameras if you're not telling the truth. But I think an adamant denial of any claim is the right thing to do if it's the truth. So if that's the truth, why didn't you do it? Now, all that being said, I'm still not convinced that he had anything to do with it. I'm still not, and that's not just because I'm here. I think when you're immersed in all of the minutia and you see all the details, you're not convinced. There's so much room for doubt, and there's so much room to believe that he really had nothing to do with this, and the scientific proof suggests this and that and everything else. If you had been as immersed in it as we are up here, and you did read everything, you really are led to believe that in many ways this was kind of a witch hunt, not just on Brady, but on the Patriots organization.
Well, and I would say this for Goodell, who has his own detractors and the hanging judge and all of that. It really kind of, more than anything, is an amalgamation of 10 years of Goodell making rules, putting them in place, the league putting them in place, the owners agreeing to them, and then there's a defensive coordinator in New Orleans, offering money up for broken legs of quarterbacks, right? Like these things that run, and they get together and say, well, we're not going to pump noise into stadiums, and yet they're doing it. And we're not going to have general managers tweeting and texting down to head coaches. We're not going to have that kind of, and everyone in the game is looking to skirt the rules. John Harbaugh, we're not going to put these players in pads. 5 minutes of pad time, Harbaugh's got to stroke a check for $137,000. So part of it is Goodell negotiating to be able to be a prick and to be the king and to be the judge and jury and executioner. But more than that, to say to everybody in the league, we got to stop cheating each other. Like, we're putting these rules in place, and if it gets to my desk that you're cheating or trying to cheat, or you've got, monkeys in trees with cameras videotaping, the other team's plays, whatever it is, we can't have that in the NFL. And when that happens, John Harbaugh, you're going to have a $137,000 check for putting guys in shells when you know damn right well you shouldn't be doing it. And I think there's a point for the NFL that Rodgers tired of dealing with it. I think he realizes there's a human nature in cheating and looking for an edge. And, we see that with the Russian athletes. There's always going to be someone staying up late at night to circumvent the rules or cheat. And I think it's Goodell's way of trying to put his foot down to some degree. I just think the Patriots have found themselves as, for over the last decade and a half, a team that really is looking for where the edge of the rule book is. No better example of that than the game we played 2 years ago up there where, Belichick stayed up all night trying to confuse the officials.
Yeah, and the Deflategate stuff was really a perfect storm of the only game in town that's left. It's the Super Bowl. It's the biggest entertainment event of the year. You have a team that's a repeat offender in many people's views, going back to Spygate. So from the get-go, it seemed that everyone was like, oh, they're going to get them this time. And it just built from there. And it was the perfect storm of accusation, unfounded at times, rhetoric, aggressive retort. And so it just became an ongoing drama. It was almost like you were watching a Netflix. You were powering through a series like House of Cards or something like that.
Yeah, but the Patriots were never saying, we'll prove our innocence. It was more like, we're going to hide everything, and you're going to have to come and get us. And that's kind of the tenor that I've seen over the 18 months is it wasn't, we have nothing to hide here, investigate away. It was kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Peyton Manning was credited for when he was, wiped clean last week, right? Everyone said, how telling was it that the press release from the NFL said, Peyton and his wife completely cooperate. In bold type. That was the sub-headline when it said that they cleared him. So there's something to be said about the long-term ramifications of just cooperating with the league when they ask you to cooperate with them.
We are chatting with Tom Lydon. He covers all things Boston sports at Fox 25. And, of course, it is still baseball season there. And for the Red Sox, for the Orioles, for the Blue Jays, for the Indians, for all these teams loading up at the trading deadline and trying to get better. The Red Sox, went early in on deals trying to get better. It's been a struggle for them, right? I mean, in the pitching and Buchholz and, plenty of drama going on up in Boston. And it's coming from a position of not being in first place.
Yeah, Sunday's win against the Angels was, right now, one of the biggest wins of the year. I mean, you're looking at going 2-8 on a series, losing 3 out of 4 to the Angels, absolutely brutal with your offensive production, down to your last out in the 9th inning, and they rally to score 5. I mean, that hasn't happened all year. You have a lineup that has scored the most runs of any lineup in the league, so the offense is there. It's just a matter of them picking it up at clutch moments. But it's a combination of that plus your pitching staff stepping up when it's got to step up. I mean, thank God Rick Porcello is 14-2 because, Drew Pomeranz's been here. He's pitched 3 or 4 times. He hasn't really put a good one together yet. David Price, at this rate, is giving you basically 1 out of every 4 starts is a good one. You need more from there. Stephen Wright has been fantastic, went to the All-Star game, but he's always questionable because he's a knuckleballer. He gave up 10 hits yesterday. You don't know what you're going to get. Eduardo Rodriguez, who came up from you guys, has not been what they expected, although they still have high hopes for him. So it's a question of, do they add another pitcher? I mean, there's been talk about a Sale deal, but they don't want to give up all their top-name prospects for a guy like Sale. That's been a big debate up here. And then it's like, all right, well, if you're not going to go get a top-notch pitcher, are you going to go get some sort of outfielder who'll come in right away and get you some offense? So it's been an interesting countdown to the deadline. I think they're a team that's in it. I think they're a team that's driven by the competition. It's obviously going to be a 3-team race with the Blue Jays and the Orioles. They're going to play each other a lot down the stretch. I think it's going to be fun. And if you ask me to handicap it right now, I don't love the Red Sox odds because I do like what I see more just from an energy standpoint and from a karma standpoint that I see from these other teams, most notably the Blue Jays who've turned it around. But the Orioles have been just so steady from the very beginning of the season, and they've really controlled the head-to-head matchups with the Red Sox. So moving forward, that's what I'm most concerned about. But the Red Sox right now, out on the West Coast, up to Seattle to start a series, then back down to L.A. to play the Dodgers, a critical stretch. And they play most of their games that are remaining on the schedule on the road. So of all the teams, they're going to have the toughest road to trying to win this AL East for sure.
The Pomeranz thing's the most fascinating to me because I would have loved to have had Pomeranz in our rotation 2-3 weeks ago. He's made a couple of starts now. None of them have gone well. You've been there for all of this, and you've seen these baseball players come in. And we could say we want about the Patriots, the Celtics, or the Bruins. There is something about being a Red Sox, and I've had this long relationship with Kurt Schilling, and pitching in Arizona and pitching in Boston are different. Pitching in Oakland and pitching in Boston. Certainly, Colorado, Oakland, and San Diego are a different environment for Drew Pomeranz the day he shows up at Fenway Park. There's something different for the Carl Crawfords and for certain players, as well as for the David Ortizes and the Kurt Schillings who thrived in Boston.
Yeah.
Other people have come there and just found it to be, from Ramirez and Hanley Ramirez I'm talking about, not Manny, and even Pablo Sandoval, find it to be kind of overwhelming and heavy, right?
Yeah, there is a combination of both, and you do have to have the right mindset, and I think it's still early to even put David Price in that category of he's overwhelmed. There's something mechanically wrong with David Price, because it's just inconsistency that's coming from him. If he totally tanked and was a brutal player, which is kind of what Carl Crawford became when he was here in Boston, then you got more of the issues surrounding playing in this city that might, hang over that signing. I don't think Price is there. And we're still not even a month into the Drew Pomeranz experiment. So he did have his second start was pretty good. I remember sitting with my producer saying, this is what they got him for. And then unfortunately for him, gave up a big home run. It's like, well, that just took this the other direction. And he didn't bounce back. There's still time, and I think the philosophy here, looking at it as August 1st, is that if they can get the David Price that the Toronto Blue Jays got last year at the deadline from here on out, then you almost have to view that as an addition at the deadline and that puts you in a position to compete. Not what they expected, but the fact is they've treaded water. They're a game and a half back, and if Price turns it on and pitches like he did last year in August and September, they will be in good shape. But they've painted themselves in that corner, like I just described, of being up against a very difficult schedule with two teams that are playing much more consistently, that kind of have more of a positive karma around them. The Red Sox have been scratching and clawing the whole season, scratching and clawing, trying to figure it out. Who's going to step up? And there haven't been a lot of those monumental moments that define a season. And I think that's why you point to Sunday, when Dustin Pedroia steps up and he hits a 3-run home run in the top of the ninth inning. They need those moments. So a lot of the guys yesterday were saying how important a moment like that might be, not just to salvage a win in a series, but to springboard them to doing something more memorable down the stretch.
But really hitting the ball at a legendary. I mean, you're batting .290 as a team. It's insane.
It's nuts. So what's wrong? I mean, why isn't this team ahead by 6 or 7 games? And it's the matter, you'll have a offense that goes out there and will give you a lead, and then the pitcher goes out there and he gives up a home run. Like that kind of stuff can't happen, and it's the kind of stuff that's been happening with this team throughout the year. They're in it. It's a 2-month season. They're a game and a half back. Let's have some fun.
All right, well, you guys have some fun up there. We will be having fun in early December when we make our little pilgrimage for Monday Night Football up in Foxborough. It's been about 2 years, so I'm looking forward to that. It's always great having you on. I'm sure we'll chat again at some point during the pennant race in September. There are going to be some great events at Camden Yards and at Fenway, as well as up at Skydome. I think this is a 3-team race, and it's as exciting a pennant race as we've had here in Baltimore in a generation. We really haven't had a pennant race like this where every single day, I mean, we almost got swept in Toronto over the weekend, right? So there's going to be good and bad weeks, but that's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and you look and you see the Blue Jays at the top of the standings, and you pinch yourself. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait, how did that just happen?
Where do they come from?
Listen, I love watching Scope. I think he's a great player. He's been delivering time and time again. That's a fun team to watch. I hate to say it when you cover the opposition, but Showalter's got them going in the right direction. They seem to be getting timely hits at the right time, so it will be a good time down the stretch here. 3-car
pileup coming in the AL East. Yeah. Tom Lydon covers all things sports in Boston at Fox 25. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Tom Lydon. That's spelled Leyden. Always great having you on, Tom. Enjoy yourself up there. Get the lobster on sale.
Right on. Thanks.
You got it. Tom Lydon from Fox 25 and WFXT in Boston, where they're not in first place. And Tom Brady's not playing at the beginning of the season. So there. Phooey on you, Boston. You can find me out in the Bahia Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world, including Boston and my wife's homeland in New Hampshire in the Granite State, by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear out at WNST.net. Our morning newspaper hits your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. It is powered up by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. And last but not least, any breaking news on the backfields in Owings Mills or with the Orioles after the trading deadline all comes to you first on the WNST text service. That is powered up by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Next Tuesday night, we're going to power it up in Carroll County and Hampstead at Greenmount Station. I'll have some crab cakes. I'll probably have one of those delicious desserts and a fresh salad. And we'll see Chris and the gang up there at Carroll County. We're bringing Brian Billick, our head coach, on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation and our WNST partner, back to Carroll County. Come on out. It's Tuesday night. We're going to talk football. We're going to talk about Denny Green. We're going to talk about the Ravens. Probably talk a little Super Bowl 35 memories because we do that from time to time and geese and wheeze with our favorite dude, head coach Brian Billick. Next Tuesday night, Greenmount Station in Hampstead. You can find me anytime, day or night, nasty at WNST.net, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, anywhere you are, we are. WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.